Hello everyone. So welcome. Now the topic today that I'm taking is inflammation. As you can see here, it's clearly visible from here that the topic that I'm taking today is your inflammation. Now you must have come across this term many a times, isn't it? So let's see what is inflammation. So inflammation is a kind of a primary immune response. What is inflammation? You can say it's a primary immune response. Primary. Primary means the first thing that the body does. So it's a primary immune response. And it's non-specific, okay? So what does the body does in this case, okay? So what do we see when inflammation happens, okay? It's a primary immune response, okay? Now when does your body uh, you know shows this kind of response? So whenever you have a cut, you have an injury, okay, or you have got a injury or wound, or you have a burnt, or you have an infection, okay. If you have a surgery, there also it can happen inflammation, that area can get inflamed, okay. So surgery or any area in your body where like septic has formed, or any kind of region in your body which is having infection, localized region in your body. So all these now time we find what, that the body shows what, inflammation. Now what happens at inflammation? Now, so basically when I said there is a cut, injury, wound, so what is your body tries to do? It tries to give a primary response and tries to heal that area. Now how it does and what happens at that time, okay, let's see one by one. Now whenever you have got a injury or a wound or a burn, that area of that tissue, you know it it gets what, wounded, injured, okay. And whenever in the previous video also I've talked about inflammatory mediators, okay. So I've talked about inflammatory mediators, which can be your various kinds of your complement proteins, cytokines could be, it could be your even whenever cells they get damaged, okay. So when these cells are there in your body, okay, and these cells, suppose there is these are the cells which are wounded, and now from these damaged cells they release, and they release a kind of mediators, okay. And now even there will be what, in your tissue there are also cells which are called as mast cells. And what are mast cells? Especially your areolar tissue has got these cells, and these mast cells are nothing but your basophil cells, which have changed to mast cells. When these move from your blood to your tissues, from your blood to your tissues, what they do, they change their name and they become mast cells. And when this tissue is getting damaged, okay, then what is happening, those mast cells, they release what, they release a component which you have heard is histamine. What they release? Histamine. And these histamine, they are what? They are basically, whether it's your histamine or your inflammatory mediators, they cause what? They cause vasodilation. What do you see? They cause vasodilation. Okay, so let's see what happens when the vessels are vasodilated. And you must have heard this thing, that whenever, if you look at an inflamed region, if you look at an inflamed area, what are the inflamed area shows? Huh? What are the features of an inflamed area? Let me see where I am. Inflamed, no, region, yeah, area. What are the things that it shows? It shows mainly the features that it shows is your redness, swelling. I will come by one to each one of you. Redness, swelling, pain, okay, and somewhat it also, there is an increased temperature is there also, slight increase in temperature, okay, the slight temperature hike, okay, is there. So these are the things basically we observe in an inflamed area, and what causes them and why this is there. Okay, let's see one by one. So as I talked about, your histamine, your inflammatory mediators, what they're causing, they're causing vasodilation. Okay, so all of you know that the blood flows from your arteries to capillaries. These are something basics which you should remember. And capillaries join to form what? Venules, and then it drains into veins. Okay, I hope this is clear. Okay, now capillaries, if I talk about, if you look at this special vessel, it's a kind of a vessel which is no, which is having what, which is, if you look at them, they are having what, they are having, they are made up of they're very fine tubes, okay, which is made up of a single cell layer. So suppose I'm making, just let me take the brush which is bit, okay, so they are your, suppose I'm making, just, so suppose this is your what, basement membrane, okay, on this basement membrane it's a bit thicker, but still, okay, let's go with it. And on this is what, your cells, you know, these capillaries are made up of what, squamous epithelial cells, so they're very flat cells, okay, so they are very flat cells, you will see, and these are your squamous epithelial cells, okay, which rest on the basement membrane. So let me make the lower part of it for you. So like this, if you can see, I'm trying to make your capillary, okay, and now this is the normal capillary which I'm making for you, and then I will show you what happens if the capillary gets dilated, okay. So this is the normal capillary, and in between you can see there are small gaps in them, okay, and this is your normal capillary. So now what will happen on vasodilation? If these capillaries they get dilated, okay, so on dilation, what do you see? Means if I'm saying that this is the capillary and it gets dilated, means it gets, lumen will become more wider, then what will happen? Or if you think of a membrane and you stretch that membrane, then let's see what happens to it. So just, so suppose this is your basement membrane and I have dilated it. Now you can see when the dilation is happening, the wider the lumen becomes. And what is happening, that on the membrane, if you look at, these membranes will also so if you look at these membranes, they will also stretch themselves, and what will happen, can you see that the gaps between the cells is increasing? What is happening? Can you see that? The gaps between the cells are increasing. Okay, so these gaps in the capillaries are increasing, and what is flowing inside it is your RBC. Okay, there will be like IRBC, let me make it, and there will be some of the WBCs inside it. Okay, let me choose another color for WBC. Suppose it is this color. So suppose it has got WBC. Now this is your neutrophil, suppose. Okay, now I hope this is clear. Similarly here also, what will you find? Now a vasodilation leads to what? Increased blood supply. Now you can see how the blood supply is increasing in this area. What will happen? More and more blood will be available to this capillary now. And some of the WBC let me make for you. Okay. So you can see here okay, how they are increasing in number. And how now vasodilation, now this is what? A dilated vessel. Okay, this is your dilated vessel. Now you can see how a dilated vessel, it is supplying more blood to that area. Now why that blood supply? And that is what basically responsible for what? For redness. This is responsible for what? Redness, which you see at an inflamed area. Why your more blood supply is required at that area? So let's talk about it. So suppose now there is a tissue around it. Okay, so around this capillaries is running, and there is a tissue around it. Okay, and so there is a, here also the cells are there around which, okay, this is flowing. Now in normal condition, you know that from capillaries basically your blood plasma is able to come out of it, and very few WBCs are able to squeeze out of it. Now what happens when this vessel becomes dilated? Now when this tissue becomes dilated, you know the spore size is increasing, which is also which is allowing these WBCs to squeeze out of it. If I make this WBC, it's squeezing out of it. Okay, so similarly I can make another WBC here which is squeezing out of it. Suppose it is monocyte, so it is squeezing out of it. Okay, so what happens that these cells, they squeeze at that area more and more. Now your WBCs will be there, and more supply of blood to that area. Okay, now when more and more supply of blood to that area is there, first let's talk about that. First vascular one, that if more of blood is there, it means more of RBC, more of oxygen supply. So what will happen to this area? More and more O2 will go to these cells, isn't it? These cells will get more and more oxygen, and if more and more oxygen they get, what will happen? It will help in healing. How it will help in healing? See, this oxygen is required for what? For producing what? Energy. And at damaged area, what is needed to be done? That area needs to be, you will have what kind of, either the cells will die or will be injured. So you need to repair them, or you want to replace them. These are the two things. If dead, you need to replace them. If injured, you need to repair them. And for that process, you need what? Energy. So these are energy requiring process. And from where that energy will come? It will come by oxidation of glucose molecule, and for that process you need oxygen. Okay, and along, not only oxygen, along with that it will also give out lot of what? Nutrients. It will give out lot of, blood will give out lot of nutrients like glucose, amino acids and all, which is required to build up that cell. Okay, you know about the cell is made up of what? It is made up of, if you look at a membrane, it is made up of phospholipids and proteins. If it has to form a cell and all those structures inside the cell, means a lot of energy is required and a lot of nutrients are required, and which is being supplied by vasodilation. So oxygen, nutrients and all, and even the waste is being taken away. Okay, so we will talk about that also later. So this is what is happening when the vasodilation is happening, and that leads to redness. And now if you talk about these cells which I was talking about, like your lymph neutrophils, and your monocytes, which squeeze out at this region, and they are the major cells, which are what? They are phagocytotic in nature. And now what they will do? They will phagocytose what? Your dead cells. Now, if dead cells are there in at that region of damaged area, then what will happen? It will act as a no, it will promote the growth of bacteria. As you already know, this region, if it is burnt or cut or anything, this is already exposed to various microbes for secondary infection. Now, if there are dead cells, then dead cells will promote the growth of bacteria. Okay, so they need to be phagocytized, which is done by your these phagocytic cells, whether it is your monocytes. Now these monocytes, when they will go to this tissue area, they will become what? They will become macrophages. You know that. They become macrophages. They are also cell eaters. And not only they eat dead cells, but also they eat any kind of microbe that has not tried to invade that area. Okay, so this is what is happening because of vasodilation. Now the next thing that you see there is swelling. Now you know that this increase release of what? Your tissue fluid at that area. There is what? There will be more because of the permeability. Your permeability will increase because of vasodilation. Okay, so permeability of your capillaries will what? Increase because of vasodilation. So more and more of your, what will happen? Your tissue fluid will, even your plasma proteins, which are bigger, which is not able to come out from these capillaries. They are not able to come out from these capillaries, but they are able to come out from here because the size has increased. The pore size has increased. Like one of the plasma protein, if you know, plasma protein, which is bigger in size, which is not able to come from a normal capillary, but from dilated capillaries, yes, they will come out like fibrinogen. Now when this fibrinogen, which is soluble protein, which is what? It's a soluble protein. Now at this inflamed region, they get converted to what? Insoluble protein, which is called as what? Fibrin. What do we call it? Fibrin, which is insoluble protein. Okay, which is insoluble. And what this protein will do? It will fill its space. Now it will form a mesh like structures. Now this protein will form what? A mesh like structure. Okay, in between your tissue spaces. So suppose this is the inflamed area, so at the in between the cells it will form what? A mesh like structure, and it will try to cover that entire injured area. What that it will do? It will try to what? This fibrin will try to cover. It will try to what? It will try to cover the injured area. So your redness is there because of increased blood supply, your swelling is there because more of tissue fluid is coming out, okay, and there are also pain is there. Why pain is there? There are certain kind of nerves which are pain nerves, we call them as, or receptors are there, which are able to detect, they are basically pain receptors, okay. You can call them that they are what, there are certain receptors present in this area, which is what, there will be definitely nerves will be around it. If I make a nerve around it, so there will be certain neurons around it, and they will have got on them certain receptors, which are what, they are pain receptors. And what they do, they alert your body basically, and alertness is required so that again you don't damage that area, and that pain keeps the immune system alert also at that area, and even the organism alert, okay. So pain receptors are there which get activated because of the damage, and they are called as pain receptors, and therefore you feel the pain there. And the last is your heat. If you touch that inflamed area, you find that there is what? There is a heat, small amount of, if you touch, suppose this is the inflamed area, है ना? If you touch it, this area will be hotter than the sidewise area. Okay, so sidewise area will be normal, but this area will be no, hotter. Why is it that this is hotter than the sidewise area? Because it is getting blood from the core part of your body, which is very hot, okay, and when it comes to the surface it releases the heat, okay, therefore you see the heat in it, okay. And I hope I have tried to explain you all the concept related to inflammation, and why do we see redness, pain, swelling, heat, huh? And still, if there is some queries of yours, you can put it in the comment section, and most welcome, your queries are most welcome, okay. So thank you for watching.